listening to Around Comics. 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 You're listening to Around Comics.
Not spill it. Don't spill the good stuff.
Use it.
All right, we're live on tape.
All right, give me a countdown.
Why do we do the countdown again?
I need the countdown.
To try to activate.
Okay, all right. It's like Sylvester Stallone in Over the Top. He had to flip his hat backwards in order to win the arm wrestling.
Yeah,
That's Chris. He has to.
Doesn't have to have a countdown.
You need to hear a countdown.
All right.
It doesn't count.
All right. In 3, 2, 1.
From Chicago, this is Around Comics, the comic culture podcast where we talk about everything in and around the world of comics and comics culture. I'm your host, Christopher Niesman, and I am joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Mr. Brian Salazar.
Oh, I'm just glad summer's almost over.
It is hot as balls in Wisconsin.
It's
like
hot.
It's hot everywhere.
It's hot. It's like the one week and a half of the year where it gets just uncomfortably hot here.
It's hot in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Hot in the city.
My
Hot
wife
in
took
the
us
city.
to the public pool today, and it wasn't as much of a shit show as I thought it was going to be. It was actually okay.
I went to my 30th high school reunion. Did I tell you guys that?
Ooh.
30 years. That's
Wow.
how fucking old I am. 30.
You old man, you.
I know. It was kind of fun though. I gotta have to admit, it was actually pretty fun. Surprisingly.
Did you talk about your internet fame?
I did not. I don't think that ever came up. No. It was mostly it was mostly people going, "Holy shit, you don't look like garbage," and comparatively to most everyone else my age, I was relatively healthy looking, and people were just like, "Geez, you're holding up pretty good. We didn't expect that out of you."
Quitting this show is the best thing in the world for you. You've lost almost a half a sal since after recording the last time. You're looking good, svelte.
Yeah, feeling good.
Fast. Athletic.
I am.
And Mr. Tom Caters, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm good.
Yeah, well, good. Are you svelte as well?
No, I'm not.
No.
No. I'm about what I've always been.
Oh, okay.
Slow moving. slow, but
rocking the dad
determined.
bod.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just always. Just tired. He's
He's had a
tired
dad
and
bod
lumpy.
since he was 14.
Yeah. Exactly. Maintained it. I've maintained it, right? Which is when I was 14 was bad, but now it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's
pretty
not too
good.
bad.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
You get older.
Not
It's like,
even a 14-year-old.
yeah. Same horrible potato body of a 14-year-old Tom.
Well, we like to talk about the comic books and comic culture on this here program. So I guess we can kind of jump into it. Not that I pay attention much anymore, but anybody see any crazy fun announcements out of San Diego? That San Diego Comic-Con just wrapped up.
I honestly did not even know it happened.
Yeah.
I saw something. The only way I knew that it happened was I saw someone else say that they didn't realize that it happened.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, me too. I also didn't realize that it happened.
It's
like
about
the
the only
50th
thing I saw.
anniversary.
Yeah, it was a thing. About the only thing I saw was a few posts on Facebook here and there, and Josh Flanagan posted something along the lines of every movie coming out is like a remake or a reboot or a TV show that's now going to the big screen. So it's not like the normal movie BS.
Top Gun 2, baby, finally.
Top Gun 2. Yep.
We got Maverick.
I've been waiting.
I have to. I have to admit, when I first heard that they were making Top Gun 2, I was like, okay, whatever. That's kind of stupid. Yeah. But then I watched the fucking trailer and I went, God, I didn't realize how much I fucking love Top Gun.
Oh, geez.
And then I'm like, okay, now I'm excited to see the next Top Gun movie.
Is Val Kilmer going to be in this one?
He is. Val Kilmer's in it.
Is he really?
Tom Cruise is in it. And then Michael Ironside is not in it. He didn't reprise his role. I want Goose to be in it as a ghost or some sort of flashback or something.
Some sort of force spirit
tied
to Star Wars.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You could do I can't remember the other guy's name, the dude that was Iceman's wingman. Anybody remember? The big tall dude?
No, there's not a whole lot of Top Gun that I actually remember.
No. Yeah. Anyway, I was excited. I have to admit, I watched the trailer, and even though it really occurred to me how dumb it is that Tom Cruise is walking around sunny California in a leather bomber jacket with a fur collar. Other than that, I was excited to see.
What's San Diego? It can be crisp
chilly,
at night.
A little chilly.
I think part of like not realizing San Diego Comic-Con happened is like now I feel like all news is like comic book news. It's all just like a headline about like Kevin Smith says last scene of this movie will blow your mind, except like that's how we talk about like everything now. Yes. So now like when San Diego Comic-Con news happens, it just like filters into like the like on my phone, like the aggregator of like world news. Everything kind of is, all the headlines are built the same way. So it all just sort of like blends in together now.
Is anybody else ready for Kevin Smith to die of a coke overdose or something? I'm just kind of
no, but boy, he's looking
weird. He looks weird.
You look healthy due to your weight loss. He looks like not good.
Yeah, he looks like he's battling something. Like there's a fundraiser in his future, some sort of dinner.
Frank Miller kind of went through that a couple years ago.
Yeah,
I actually saw Frank Miller here recently, or a picture of him.
Is he better?
Doesn't look like he's like the crypt. He doesn't look like the Crypt Keeper anymore. And because I was a little afraid for old Frank.
Yeah,
yeah.
He was looking a little Auschwitz-y.
Yeah, it was not good. Speaking of movies, I did have a chance to go see Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Oh, I did too. Yeah,
it was delightful.
I was Tom. I'm assuming you did not see it.
I'm not going to see it for like 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, just spoil away. I'll be like, did I hear about it? How does? I'll literally. It'll be on the Disney streaming app, and I'll be like, oh, I guess I'll watch this, and then 3 years later, I'll be like, that was a pretty good movie.
Tom refuses to be spoiled. He cannot be spoiled.
One of the great things about getting older, Tom, and you're a touch younger than we are, but all of the comics that you've read in your life, you're going to basically forget all of the content of them, and so you get to go back and reread them, and it's like reading them again for the first time.
Yeah, it's great. I have no idea. By the time I see it, it'll be like, oh, no one told me about this.
I'm sure that's how my grandmother feels when she sees me and doesn't recognize me again, and then she's like, oh, well, I get to see you all over again. I get to meet you for the first time.
Yeah, it's great. I'm rereading Wasteland, the Anthony Johnson, Chris Mitten, and I
just ran into Chris Mitten not too long ago.
Oh, how's he doing?
He's doing well. He's doing another. I think he's doing another BPRD or Rasputin book or something in that universe. I think something's coming. I tried to convince him to draw a book for me. I wanted to co-write and draw a book basically where Alan Moore and the different comic book writers, like him and what's the other guy? What's the bald guy?
Grant Morrison.
Grant Morrison are like words. Words are magic, and they just like are this ancient battle of wizards that have been going on forever. And but yeah, he doesn't have time for that foolishness.
He's like, I need to get paid.
I got to get some cash.
I need money.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, rereading Wasteland, and it's nice because I'd read it when it was coming out, and now I'm going back and reading it again. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about all this stuff. This is awesome. It's like reading it again for the first time.
I'm kind of going through that with like 80s music. I'm like, oh, I paid no attention to this song back in the 80s because I was just sort of a curmudgeon-y punk that didn't, anything that was on the radio was shit. If it was popular, it sucked, in my opinion, back then.
You were mostly right.
Yeah, but I can kind of listen to stuff now that then I didn't listen to at all. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. I kind of remember hearing it, but I never actually listened to this song before. So now I can kind of sit down and listen to it and go, oh, all right, this isn't so bad. This is kind of, I could see
Billy Ocean's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Could be worse.
Yeah. There's a lot worse now than that.
This is fine.
Well, back to Spider-Man. We did we skipped on the Spider-Man Homecoming, right? No, Far From Home. Homecoming
Far From
was
Home.
The first one.
And I liked it because, they had a lot of the, it's spoilers.
Spider-Man's in it.
Yeah, Spider-Man is in it. It does take place after
Spider-Man's Peter
Avengers
Parker.
Endgame.
Spoiler.
So they're, this is spoilery to the MCU. But yeah, it takes place after the events of Avengers Endgame, and so it does fit into the larger Marvel universe. But it was just a fun Spider-Man adventure. It was.
I thought it was a really well done sort of just. They took a Spider-Man story that we've kind of read a bunch of times. Mysterio is a character that we're familiar with, and they used it to sort of tell an updated version of those characters or that story. And I thought they did an excellent job with it. At one point, I don't want to give any of it away, really.
Mysterio is a bad guy.
Well, but I thought the way they did it was pretty cool. And I even at one point I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on here? They had fooled me with it, and
the master of illusion.
Yes, absolutely, and I thought it was really good. Yeah,
it was.
Well, I look forward to seeing it.
Well,
in 3 years,
it had everything that makes a Spider-Man story for me. It was the conflict between being a teenager and wanting to do things that a teenager does and things that are important to Peter Parker, the high school student. And then there's the whole, he also has to save the world. And that was a constant struggle between those two things, which I really enjoyed that they made that kind of the conflict of the movie.
Yeah, so. I thought I agree with that absolutely because having a teenager and sort of seeing one battle with wanting to have fun but also like having a summer job and responsibilities that come with that, or other responsibilities with getting ready for senior year of high school, that kind of thing. But also wanting to be a kid, it's a back and forth, and it's a struggle for sure. And to see them use that almost very familiar thing of summer. I just want to have fun. I just want to have a summer vacation and have fun with my friends, but I have to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, no matter what.
I have responsibility.
Yeah, have those.
Well, when you're a teenager, like that first love or that relationship with that boy or girl is like the most important thing in the world, and from that perspective, it is. But with Peter, it's like his relationship or wanting to have a relationship with MJ is the most important thing in his world. But then he also has to save most of Europe.
Bitch, you went to space. You got shit to do. Yeah,
exactly.
No, absolutely. I think it was really well done. It was really fun. I really like Tom Holland as Peter Parker too. He's very likable. He's vulnerable, and you can believe that like he can bench press a Buick, but at the same time he is, doesn't know how to deal with these things. Doesn't necessarily know if he wants to deal with these big things. And also, the relationship they built with him and Tony Stark and how that has played out over a few movies, and continued to in this to some degree, or at least, a lot. Yeah. I really like that too, how they've continued that on, and it makes sense for the character. I think that this version of the character of Spider-Man. I don't know if did he ever have that in the comics. Did Spider-Man and Tony Stark ever have? There was never really a mentor.
A few. I'm not way up on my Spider-Man stuff, but didn't Peter Parker take over Stark Industries a few years ago?
I thought it was.
I think so. I think there was some sort of tying it. There's a little bit of comic history with that. I'm not the expert. It's need to call David Price.
I don't know shit about Iron Man in the comics. I don't.
It's better in the movies.
It's a testament. It's a testament to the staying power of the movies that anything I know about Iron Man, and I got shoved any data, anything I had. I mean, I guess my perception of Iron Man from the comics was always he's just got a bunch of all his bad guys are dudes in other suits, worse suits.
Jumping
it's not. It's kind of
Ironmonger.
It's almost unfair for comic book writers. I mean, we know a fair share of comic book writers, and they're not necessarily the most charming or socially graceful. But they have to compete with Robert Downey Jr. essentially. That they're never going to write an Iron Man that is as charming, as charismatic as Robert Downey Jr. So people are always going to, or any of those characters really. That's a tough thing, I think, going forward. We always talk about how the comics and the movies should be more intertwined, or why aren't the movies sort of building up comic book audiences? But it's how do you compete with those films? Quite honestly, I'm okay. I'm okay with them not. So Marta and I went out for lunch today, and where'd you go?
The bartender. We went to Walter's on North in downtown Wauwatosa.
Ding! And there's a little plug for you.
And so we're sitting at the bar having a burger or whatever, and the bartender and a lady are at the end of the bar, and they're talking about TV show, and I start hearing names like Klaus and Luther and blah blah blah, and they're talking about plot points and I'm like, oh, they're talking about Umbrella Academy, and the bartender says, there's a lot of conjecture about what's going to happen in season 2, and I've seen some fan theories and that kind of stuff, and I just looked at her and I was like, or you could just read the second volume of the comic book and know now. And she looked at me. Really? I was just like, yeah,
dumbass.
And she's like, really? I was like, yeah, it's a great comic. So the whole, what I'm getting to is the whole, the comic should mirror what's going on, with the TV show or the movie. And I'm like, it doesn't have to. I mean, it's
also Chris overhears your conversation. He will interject himself into it.
Creepy stalker in a bar.
Or you could read.
We were all sitting at the bar.
This is why women don't feel comfortable going to comic book stores, because creeps like you that always have to mansplain to them. Excuse me.
You could know if you read the graphic novel, the trade paperback. The second.
Yeah, that was probably the look that Mark gave me. And she's like, what are you talking about? I was just like, don't worry about it.
I'll send you an Amazon link immediately.
Thanks, guys.
Is that our idea of Chris in a restaurant in Wauwatosa? Excuse me, ma'am. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a second volume.
The way he got their attention is he just let out this
just you could hear his eyes roll in the back of his head, just this audible roll of his I know what you mean, though. Like,
come back on this one.
I do get like a weird protective nature. Well, I went into a gaming store just the other day. My kids have gotten into Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, nice.
Because of like Stranger Things. They love Stranger Things, and then that got them interested in Dungeons and Dragons.
We are playing Waterdeep Dragon Heist right now, and it's awesome.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
To pick up some die.
I went to actually go pick up because I started a game of the Curse of Strahd, the Ravenloft 5 whatever. Started that game with my kids and my niece and nephew, and we've been playing that. But then my daughter and her boyfriend and my son want to play a separate game. So we were going to start with Tyranny of Dragons. It's like the first one that came out. And so I was going in to see if they had the book. And I always feel like this weird thing of like when I walk in there, they treat me like I'm like a dad that doesn't know what I'm doing in the store. You know what I mean? Like that. And it's this weird, like there's this geek, I don't have any geek cred. I walk in and now I don't have, any kind of geek cred. And so it's like, they treat me like I'm an interloper or some sort of like, weird. And so.
Sir, there's multiple kinds of dice. There's not just your traditional 6-sided. There's 8-sided.
Are you looking for something like Monopoly or the game of life?
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. Yeah. But so I always like overcompensate. I always kind of overcompensate, and so I'm like, I start asking questions, like really detailed questions about the module. And you could see the girl behind the counter, like her eyes kind of open wide, and like, whoa, oh, okay, wait a minute. But there's that weird, like, as an old geek, and you see people talking about stuff as sort of experts or as sort of authorities about things in that way, there is this sort of nature or this inclination to be like, okay, settle down, slow your roll, relax, excuse me, but did you know? So I get you, Chris. I understand where you're coming from.
You know me. I can't fucking help myself. So.
I know. It's all right.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Yep.
You are.
So they're playing D&D, huh?
Yeah, they're really into it. I mean, I'm the dungeon master, and here's the thing. I forgot how much fucking reading there is with Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, Jesus. I know. I'm DMing a campaign right now, and god damn, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of fucking reading. I really don't enjoy reading that much shit. They really need to come out with like a simpler way to play Dungeons. It's too much. It's too many rules, and like, I don't know. It's this. I feel the same way about like comic books. Like a lot of times,
if they could just do away with magic, I'd be fine.
Yeah, magic makes things difficult.
Magic just makes things really fucking difficult.
They could put the game inside a box. You connect to your TV.
Exactly. And I use some sort of like 2-button or lever thing
something
with my thumbs. Where I could just
move around within this unit. Let someone else DM.
Yeah.
I've got a great group though. I mean, they are more.
Are you saying my kids aren't a great group? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. I'm not saying that my group is great because they are much more.
Your group's better than my kids. They're
just much more about the role playing than the actual nuts and bolts rules. They enjoy the role playing aspect of it, which makes a lot of fun. They're not, it's.
My kids, the problem I found with my kids is they haven't quite got the concept of role playing as much as like they look at it like a video game. Mm-hmm. Like they're trying to hedge their bets, and
they want to solve.
They want to solve it, and they want to win, and they're so worried about dying or being injured that they're not being very heroic. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, no, you're adventurers, you're heroes. It's like, we're going to have fun. I'm not going to kill you off. It's like they look at it like a video game where it's like,
you got a ton of save rolls.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's just the mentality of like, I have to get past this level and beat the boss and get to the next level.
Like, I'm just fucking making it up.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly.
There
This
is
is
no-
just
I
a
don't know.
story.
It's just-
So we're
Quite you.
we're working on that part of it, and I get a little frustrated, and I don't like getting frustrated with it because it's like this should be fun. We shouldn't be like, you know,
My character decides to hide behind a rock. And wait.
exactly. Yeah.
Wait.
I mean, they just kind of want to like game it the whole time, and it's like, you know, don't think that. I think kids nowadays, like, they think in game theory almost automatically.
Sure.
Like it's all about like what are the percentages of every situation so that I survive or come out on top. Like instead of just going, fuck it, I'm going to charge in and kill something.
Now that is hilarious because I was in a group of curlers and D&D players, so they were the geekiest people in the world. But the guy DMing was much younger. He was in his 20s, and the people playing were all in their late 30s and 40s, and we were the most reckless party ever. I mean, we would charge into every room, into any keep, whatever. And he's just like, "What is wrong with you? You know, like scout things out." It's like I'm afraid that you're all going to die every time we get together because we absolute reckless abandon. So it was like the opposite of what your kids do.
Yeah, it's
Kids
weird
these days don't know how to fight a dragon. They don't understand.
You just got to charge right in there, Tom.
just gotta get in there
A
and
rock
get, you know.
for him to leave.
Well, you would think like with all the video games, I mean, you can just save and continue and restart where you'll die. You know what I mean? So you would think they would have a little more adventurous spirit in them of like not worrying about dying. But I don't know. Maybe my kids are just
I don't know.
scaredy cats.
But think about, I mean, even like the idea of like saving your game the whole time, it's just like that in itself is like part of the game plan, you know, of like,
yeah.
like,
It's
how,
a game
you know,
theory. It's like, how do I
constantly
make sure I win?
incremental like inching towards victory, or like the idea that there is one way to solve what you're doing. As you're
Right.
the DM, there's that one correct way
Right. Exactly.
to like get through the situation. Whereas that's, you know, not the point. That's not how the game is structured.
Right.
Like, there's no like
It should go in
this
any
is the
direction.
correct way.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the correct way to do this. And when you find that, then you move on to the next thing. You know, like it's like a combination lock or something.
Yeah, and have fun.
And have fun. That should be the
have
number
fun.
one thing. Yeah. But
You mentioned Stranger Things,
Yes.
which remind me of another series I've been reading. This is Chris is late to the game, but thinks this is awesome anyway. Getting caught up on Paper Girls. Have you guys read any of the Paper Girls?
I have read like 6 volumes of it, something like that, 5 or 6. It's very good. Yeah.
I bought the first trade, and I liked it so much that I decided it's like, you know what, this is something I'm probably going to read and reread again because my, once again, retention is terrible, and I'll enjoy this for the first time several times in my life. So I went and bought the deluxe editions. I got the 2 deluxe hardcovers, and the third one is not. They finished the series, right? The series is finished, but the last trade.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I think they wrapped it up. The last trade is not out, and I think the deluxe edition won't come out probably for.
I'm checking out volume right now from Hoopla.
Okay.
I'm gonna read it while you tell. No, I'm kidding.
It is. I bring it up with Stranger Things because there are some parallels. It's set in the mid '80s. It is a group of 4 girls who all have paper routes in this. It's a suburb of Cleveland, so it's once again kind of a Midwestern, town. Teens kind of get into a crazy sci-fi adventure. So that turns into where it's. Stranger Things is more about what the dimensional portal. Paper Girls turns into a time travel adventure, and it's a lot of fun. What I loved about it, and why I enjoyed this more than another book I'll mention in a minute, is that Brian K. Vaughan is so good at tying you to these characters, where I'll read some series and I'll put it down. And I'm just like, I don't even remember the character's name, where it's been 2 weeks since I read Paper Girls, and those characters are still so fresh and vibrant in my mind. It's like I know every one of them. I know not just their names, but their motives.
Maybe you just really relate to teenage girls.
This is all true. But you know what I mean? Brian K. Vaughan is so good at making you care about the characters that he puts on paper.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I was just giving you a shit. But no, I agree with you. He does a really good job of making actually unique characters with different personalities on a page, which is not always the easiest thing to do. And I find that's a really difficult thing to do in a lot of comics, or at least a lot of that are out today. It's like you'll see.
But he does it in a way that's not forced, where it's like, this is this character that plays this role, and this is this character that plays this role. It's like, no, these are like living, breathing, organic characters that are very believable. He's really good at it.
Well, and that's why he writes for TV a lot too, I think, because he's able to concisely give you enough personality and just some dialogue and just some actions of what these characters do, and it sticks with you. And like you said, it makes them vibrant, living characters as opposed to two-dimensional, flat characters that so many are in a lot of comics. I have a hard time a lot of times with books with a lot of characters, especially if the art isn't really good. At distinguishing between characters, it's like, wait a minute, who is this? They all kind of look the same. They all kind of sound the same. Yeah. So
Cliff Chang art, by the way, doesn't hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's working with awesome artists at the time doesn't hurt. Yeah.
It's often a benefit to your comic book sales is working with really fucking awesome artists. Yeah.
Artists.
Go ahead though. Yeah, but I just wanted to chime in and agree with you on that. So so you've read the first 2 volumes so far?
I've read the first 2 deluxe editions, which would get me up to, I think that's two trades per. So I'm probably through 4 trades. Would be my here. Hold on. Let me look at it. Talk while I look.
Yeah, I started reading it on Hoopla and in the trade and really enjoyed it. And it is kind of funny though that it is so Stranger Things.
I am through the 20th issue.
20th issue. All right, gotcha.
Yes.
Those are on the deluxe editions are on Hoopla as well, which is interesting.
Oh, nice. That's cool. Yeah, but it does. I mean, it has a little bit of a Stranger Things vibe, but just because of the era and just the age. I mean, it's kids in the 1980s,
right?
So that's about where the similarity stops.
Well, I think you're going to see a lot more of that sort of, genre almost. It seems like a lot of stuff is going back to the 80s and that era of stuff, and I think you're going to see.
Yeah, we're the people with money. We're the people with money now.
Exactly. Well, yeah. What's going to be sad whenever you start seeing the 90s, the retro 90s stories.
Well, what was something's coming
Action's
out
already.
Captain Marvel was that?
Oh yeah, Captain Marvel was in the 90s. Yeah, there you go. That wasn't very good, but it was in the 90s.
it's very 90s. So, So anyway, that's kind of I've read a ton of stuff, but I don't want to keep going on about what I've read. What have you guys been reading or watching?
Well, I can go. I've been reading the Immortal Hulk.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I really have enjoyed it. It's a very different Hulk. Initially when I started reading it, it has like the first issue of the Immortal Hulk series is very much, it feels like maybe a 80s horror comic, a Swamp Thing or something like that, where it's almost a one and done short story. It has a Tales from the Crypt or something like that, where it's almost like a morality tale, and the Hulk is the monster, but really it's the humans that are the monsters, and he's sort of showing us that. But the interesting thing is, that was really just the first issue or two kind of were in that vein and had almost like a formula to them. Mm-hmm. But I think that was
who's right?
Al Ewing is writing it, and he's I don't know anything about Al Ewing. I don't know really. I couldn't tell you one thing about him other than he's writing this book, and that he's a really good writer.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. I don't know if he's been in comics for 20 years or if this is the first thing he's ever written. I have no idea, but he's a very good writer. Basically, just to set it up, the Bruce Banner is back. He was killed. I don't know if you guys have any idea, but he was killed at one point by Hawkeye.
No.
Yeah. And but he sort of like Bruce Banner asked him to do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
he shot him in the head with like a adamantium arrow, or I don't remember how he died. But anyway, he died, but he's back, and they don't really explain why he's back or how he's back or anything like that. You just kind of get into it, and it's the beginning of it is much more like the old '80s Hulk TV show.
The TV show, yeah.
He's kind of wandering around and getting into trouble.
The Monster of the Week.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. But like I said, that's really just the first couple of issues. And then all of a sudden, sort of this bigger storyline comes around, and you start to find out more about the Hulk and about Bruce Banner's relationship and what's going on there. And there's a lot of other characters involved, and it becomes a very big story about, 6-7 issues into it. And I'm at like, let's see, where am I at on it? I am like issue 12 or something like that, and I think it's out to like 20. I think there's 20 issues out currently.
Oh wow, okay, that's a pretty good size run.
Yeah, and it's definitely has a horror vibe to it, but it also has this weird supernatural. There's almost like a Hellboy-ish feel to it to some degree, where like the Hulk is. We're finding out more about what the Hulk is, and it's not just this simple monster created by gamma radiation. That's still there. The whole origin of the Hulk is still intact. None of that has changed. But what we find out is that he is actually immortal. And he can't die. And even at one point, like, he gets vivisected. He gets cut into pieces and put into jars. And he's still alive, and he can still breathe and function and move. And he's actually really intelligent. And at night, he only comes out at night. It sets up this really strange and esoteric story, and so many weird things happen in this book. I don't really want to try and go into all the details, but it's a Hulk book that I've never really read before. It's very odd. It's
the Hulk but interesting.
Yes, yeah, it's the Hulk but actually interesting. Yes, that's a very good way of putting it, because there's so many things going on, and like I said, kind of the gist of it to some degree is we kind of find out the Hulk is almost this like godlike figure, or like more like a demon, like a demonic, and that's actually what happened when the gamma radiation, when the gamma bomb went off and Bruce Banner was caught in it. It like opened a portal to hell, and the Hulk came out, and for whatever reason attached itself to Bruce Banner.
So that's kind of the Hellboy kind of vibe to it. Okay.
And
interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, and it goes on from there. And there's there's a lot of the sort of tropes in it to some degree. Thunderbolt Ross is in it to some degree, and I'm just getting to the part where what's his name, Doc Samson shows up.
Doc Samson, really?
Yeah, so a lot of the familiar characters are in it, but they're all sort of dealing with the Hulk in a different way now. They're not sure what they're dealing with. They're not sure what his motive is or what he's trying to do. And we're not even sure. Bruce Banner's not sure. He seems to have some sort of goal or plan, but we don't know what it is. So it's like there's this weird mystery to it. There's There's a lot of horror elements to it. There's a lot of other characters to it, and in the whole thing, they don't set him up as a hero or a villain necessarily. He's a little of both. He's definitely not a nice guy, and he's not a rampaging beast all the time. He's very intelligent and calculating, but he's something else. He's some sort of like primordial force. So it's it's really. So I don't know. I've really enjoyed it so far, and like I said, Ewing gets very deep in sections, in parts of it. He brings in a lot of stuff from the Bible and from different. Oh, wow. Different. There's a lot of things in this book. There are a lot of elements going on in this book, but at the same time, there's, like I said, there's Alpha Flight is in it at one point. The Absorbing Man is in it at one point.
Nice.
A lot of different characters are in it at different points in the book. So you know, and there's plenty of fighting and stuff like that. But also a lot of, you know, there's a lot of graphic, gross horror stuff. Almost there's a feel to it initially of almost like a Cronenberg kind of feel.
Body horror.
Body horror. Like. There's a part where the Hulk's going through these transformations of like the gamma radiations being sucked out of him, and he's fighting. He's fighting another. I can't remember what the creature was, but he's fighting this other creature, and like it gets split in half, but it's still functioning, and so there's this like gross, you know, weird transformation, you know, all this stuff, all this really, really cool visual stuff as well. Great artwork. I can't say enough about it. It's I haven't really enjoyed a Hulk book since probably like the Mr. Fix-It era of the Hulk, because I enjoyed that because
Planet Hulk was awesome.
No, you're right. No, that's true. Yeah. Planet Hulk was very good. That was the last time. That was like, okay. But Planet Hulk was much more straightforward, I think, of like...
It's cosmic. It was Cosmic Hulk.
Where this is just like, I don't know. It takes the Hulk back to the like a weird place where I think he started from. You know, like the Hulk originally was a very odd character if you think about it, and at that time, you know, with superheroes and everything, he's like this weird rampaging monstrosity.
Well, even at the beginning, it was like he wasn't. Like the first couple issues, he transforms into the Hulk at night, and then they're like, "No, he doesn't. He transforms when he's angry."
Yeah,
and now he's green. You know, like it's like the concept of the Hulk is very strong and obviously resonates, but like the details have always shifted. So they're like, I don't know. Maybe is he an Avenger? Or like, I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, they even talk about that in the book. At times, it's like, you know, it's like, well, what are we going to do with him? He was an Avenger, but he also murdered a bunch of people. Like, and we always kind of just go, oh, well, that's just the Hulk. You know, like there's a part in the book where he kind of different characters talk about the different times that the Hulk has been all over the place. These different characters, these different how do you say that word? Manifestations of the Hulk.
Yes.
And it's really interesting. I have enjoyed it very much, and I hope it continues for a while because it's. I think it's one of the better books coming out of Marvel right now. It's definitely something different.
Yeah. What is the? What would you consider? Is there like the definitive Hulk? Like what is like?
Ooh.
Like in comics,
Hulk?
Right? Is there one? I don't know. There's like,
I mean, Peter David did some cool stuff back in the day, but yeah, I
think the definitive
to point out like an era.
I think the definitive character is not the Hulk. I think it's Bruce Banner.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean. Like the Hulk is it's the emotion,
but it's like the version, right? Like I don't know. We talked about this with Doom Patrol. Like what's the version that you're like, oh yeah, that's the like the one that you would when someone says the Incredible Hulk, right? Like when you think of. I don't know. Everyone has probably their idea of what Spider-Man's is, right? But you
when I think of the Hulk, like what is that character? I think of the John Byrne Hulk. That was the smart scientist Banner and the rampaging beast Hulk. That's my version.
I don't know. I'm not. I was just curious.
But that's me. That's me.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people who I
probably think of the
Peter
TV
David
show. Honestly, I think of the old TV show is because that was so much ingrained into me every day after school watching that.
Yeah.
At that time in my life, it's
probably agree with you. Yeah. I mean, that's like the default version, right? Because there's so many different versions of the Hulk where it's like that internal thing in your head where you're like, oh, this is, like even if the the Mr. Fix-It stuff is cool, like and interesting, it's like that's not the Hulk,
right? That was a deviation.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like a deviation of it, right? So it's like I don't know. It's just curious because when in talking about the Hulk, he has so many that. The character has so many deviations, so many interpretations that get reset back to something, right? But it's like if you were like the definitive Hulk is this one, you'd be like, I don't know. It's not quite the definitive Hulk. It's like a cool version of the Hulk, but not like
the movie Hulk is cool, and it was like, it's interesting. Like there was a different kind of take on the Hulk, but I don't like for me personally, none of those really captured the Hulk for whatever reason to me, or at least that definitive version for me. But I think you're absolutely right. I don't know that there is one that you can point to because, there's definitely even like the Todd McFarlane era of Hulk, like that was a huge part. I mean, I remember, that whole storyline with like the leader. And that whole era of the Hulk was something I remember, was really cool. And the Hulkbusters when they first showed up, and but I think he is one of those interesting characters that I think you can continue to play with them. And like this version, I think will reset to something more normal or more, average, boring.
It always does.
Yeah, it always will. But I like seeing it right now because you can do that with the Hulk because he's
you think about the Hulk as having like the Hulk, his cultural relevance or like people know what the Hulk is, and not only do they know what the Hulk is, they know that Bruce Banner turns on the Hulk when he's angry.
Yeah.
Right, which is way more when you think about like superheroes in general.
What people know about superheroes.
What people know about superheroes. People get the Hulk. And
you don't want to see me when I'm angry.
Yeah, right. Like, but I don't know. I never really thought of that, but now I just thought of that while we were talking about that.
Well,
like,
and
think of how many people, right? Like, how many people? Yeah, that level of like could explain a superhero to you, like whether they know them or not, right? Like Thor. Right, like you'd be like, oh, he's like the Greek god or like the Norse god of thunder. He's also, like that level of like I understand the mechanics of how this character actually works.
Like, how many people could I mean, now with the movies certainly, but before like the movies, like how many people could explain to you how Captain America, like how Steve Rogers was in World War II, turned into Captain America, was frozen in ice. Like, who would know that? No, outside of, comic book fans, like, nobody would have known that. Even today, I don't know that many people that
I could call my dad, and he could explain the Hulk.
Right.
Like, he's a guy who, when he gets angry, he turns into the Hulk.
Yeah.
And he's like, green, yeah. That's how it works.
It is a universal thing. Like, I think everyone deals with a temper to some degree and, like, emotional, being, uncontrollable, your emotions being uncontrollable. I think everyone understands that, and so it's like this green monster. It's like we all kind of feel that someday, somewhere in our lives. So I think people.
Some days you feel blue.
Some days you feel it. Some days you feel green.
Well, I think that the history of that character is interesting because we're going on 60 years, and you watch like the history of Marvel stuff, and there were like two characters out of the 1960s Marvel that were really kind of identified as being like counterculture characters, or the counterculture movement looked at those characters and kind of gravitated to them, and that was Doctor Strange because of the psychedelics, and the Hulk because the Hulk was like an anti-establishment, anti-military counterculture character.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So for a lot of people, that's how they think of that character, as, you know, being hunted down and fighting against the U.S. military and the military-industrial complex.
Well, he is kind of that loner rebel.
Yeah.
You know, like he fuck you to everybody. Like he just leave me the fuck alone. Just, you know, he doesn't.
Why won't the puny humans?
Yeah.
Leave him alone.
Who hasn't ever felt
it's
that?
because the man is trying to put him down.
Yeah. Why don't the puny humans just leave? I say it all the time.
It was interesting. Going back to that era, but then going back to what we were talking about Iron Man earlier. I was reading on Iron Man, something like on the origin of Iron Man, and I never thought of it this way. It was like, you know, like they wanted him to be sort of anti-culture. You know, like he worked for the government. He worked for he was the man. He was a billionaire, you know, white guy who made weapons for the U.S. military in the 60s. How the fuck did people not hate him? Like who was buying that book? And you know, how did people not
be like
despise that character back then? But I guess it was like
he didn't have his own book until the 70s, right? Because that was out of what, Tales to Astonish?
Yeah, but it was only like 20 issues of Tales to Astonish, and then he got his own book, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I want to say like he started in like Tales to Astonish 23, and then like 43 maybe was the end of that, and then he got Iron Man, but I don't remember exactly. I could be wrong.
Yeah, speaking of being tremendously behind the times, I've just recently reread Infinity Gauntlet for the first time in over 2 decades. I did not.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're getting all ready for
the. It's new to you, right?
Yeah, I was just like, I'll read this. I was like, I haven't read this in a long time. I'll see what I don't remember. I mean, obviously because of the Marvel movies, you know, like part of that, the story is obviously, you know, like around. So it's not like, oh, I don't know any of this that's happening. But it is funny to read it and read like the truly comic book version, right? As opposed to like instead of the movie version, right? Like the very extremely like cosmic and very nihilistic like comic book version of it, right? Like where it's very like Marvel cosmic and just like very heady, right? As opposed to like the Marvel movie version, which is not dumber, but more like built around like forward progress of a story.
Yeah,
more conventional, like, more of a conventional, not a Jim Starlin. I'm just gonna kill everyone because the universe is dark.
Yeah,
Starlin wrote with a really fucking heavy pen, man.
Yeah, it's like, Jesus Christ, he kills half the universe like in the halfway through the first issue. You know, and it's like there you go. But yeah, it was interesting to read it. Like I haven't read it in an extremely long time, but now to look back on and sort of like think about it in the context of both like the Marvel movies of like how they've used Thanos in those movies in a similar but a very different way, right? Where like in the movies, I feel like they made that character more of like a Marvel villain, right? Like more like, oh, I kind of like, not that he's correct, but he has some sort of motivation, which feels
you can almost justify in some ways what he's doing, or at least you could
it's
take
like grounded in something, right? Like it's like grounded in a thing that you could believe he's wrong about, but it's like, and he feels like actual emotions about the things he does to achieve those things. Whereas like the Starlin version, which is, I enjoyed reading it, is like very like, I must make death love me.
Yeah.
Which is like not an extremely grounded concept to like build a story around. Is like the personification. I must make this female personification of death love me, and I have the devil next to me telling like it's extremely
Infinity Gauntlet is a love story.
It's a love story. It's like marijuana has only recently been legalized. The law passed. I don't think it's actually officially legal. But then I'll go back and reread Infinity Gauntlet once I'm able to like get to that space.
Get in that Starlin head space.
It's like, it's also just like, it's so dark, like comparing it to, so much of it's so dark in comparison to like Crisis on Infinite Earths or something like that. Yeah. Like another sort of like cosmic event thing where like the thing about like Crisis is it's sort of built around like all these miniature stories of like, if we do this, we can stop this. And if we do this, we can, alter this or that. There's an impending sense of doom, but there's also like miniature things along the way. Whereas Infinity Gauntlet's just built around like, all of these people are going to lose, and there's nothing you can possibly do.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's very, I'm like, oh man.
I hope you enjoy watching all these characters die.
I hope you enjoy a scene of just Moon Knight watching New York burn. And like,
and Starlin got off on it too. Like he liked having that sort of sense of, the guy that was just willing to kill off everyone. He kind of cultivated that after a while as well. It was like, oh yeah,
Captain Marvel,
I'm
man.
that guy.
It was great. It was, I loved reading it. I was like, this is so comic booky in a very good way, where it's just like,
and isn't it crazy that's the story that they picked to make like the largest movie franchise of all time.
Yes, I was like, I'm going to use this story where this strange alien is trying to make death love him. Mm-hmm. Yes, this will make a blockbuster movie. Yes,
this will be the biggest movie of all time, which I think it officially crossed that threshold.
It's like, yes, we will use this story where it's featuring just all these soliloquies. Just of Thanos being like, will death not love me?
Just staring off into the cosmos, lamenting why.
Or just like Doctor Strange, just like also staring into, just characters staring into the void.
Yeah.
Just constantly every couple of pages, just like, we're all going to die. There's nothing we can do, or like, it's just, I'm like, God damn, Jim Starlin, man. You gotta like these kids reading these comics, just like, it's great. I hope that the Marvel Universe introduces a female personification of death.
That was maybe the I don't know, not disappointing thing, but I was sort of wondering how they were going to do that, because I kind of thought, oh, okay, was that going to be why Thanos is trying to do all this? He's trying to make death fall in love with him, but they obviously didn't go that route.
Obviously didn't go there.
I mean, it would have been interesting, but going back to what you said. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, having everyone in the movie theater like, wait, what?
Well, you sometimes like the level of shit that comic book fans will buy into. Like, we'll just sort of go, oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, sure, of course. That makes complete sense. Yeah. We don't kind of maybe realize sometimes, like, oh, most people wouldn't accept that. We have a high level.
A scene where these cosmic beings with names like Eternity or Epic or Epoch, or it's like, whoa, what? To be honest, I don't know the difference between any of those Marvel like giant like when they're named after like things like Eternity. And all
the strange.
It's like, wait, what does this character do?
It's just Eternity.
It's like, oh man, Jim Starlin. Yeah, and there's like 5 of them all together, and like Galactus is arguing with them.
Yeah, I mean, what did they get together for? I mean, were they just like playing cards?
it's
like it's just I'm like, man, I'm not nearly high enough to truly enjoy the cosmic Marvel. Like,
it was out there, man. Marvel Cosmic was, the 70s were crazy when he was doing that
all
shit.
Fucking high as shit. High as the
We're gonna make a character.
Have you read all the Warlock stuff?
No, not in a long time. I mean, I'm sure I did at one point, but I have a hard time going back to that stuff. Maybe I will try and get high though, and read some of it.
Read some stars.
I was just reading it. I was like, what the fuck is happening in this? Like, it's just like, it's like, oh god, eternity has now showed up. What does that mean?
But think of that though. Like, think of some of those concepts and characters that he came up with then, and then like look at the whole Sandman universe that Gaiman did. It's a lot of it is there's similarities, and he kind of ran with it in a different direction. But like having Death be a female, Starlin did that before Gaiman did, and Gaiman gets a lot of
copycat.
Maybe I don't know. What I wanted to ask you guys is like, why do you think Marvel always feels the need to make their villains sympathetic in some way? Why is that? Just like so they can sell
I mean, like historically, are you asking?
Well, I mean, specifically in the movies, for sure, they've done it, and historically, I don't know if it's it makes
for more compelling stories, but I mean that was a staple of Marvel from the beginning, was that they were going to have complicated, conflicted characters. I mean that was the thing about the Fantastic Four, is that here you had a superhero group that fought with each other, that didn't get along. And so I think that's kind of the roots of that entire universe, is that they have complicated, conflicted characters, both heroes and villains. I mean, you look at Magneto. Magneto's, kind of like the perfect example of it. I mean, even Doctor Doom. There's been some takes on that villain as a character, where Brubaker did that Books of Doom that kind of made him a sympathetic character.
Yeah, I agree. I just find it kind of interesting. They almost go overboard with it. Like sometimes, like I guess one of the things it was like the Spider-Man villains. Spider-Man villains are never like, there's always some sympathetic reason why they're doing what they're doing, and nobody's ever just a bad guy. Which I get. Like, you don't want just like a black and white sort of simplistic view of good and evil. It does make for more interesting characters, but it almost seems like sometimes it's unnecessary, or like, I don't know.
I agree. Well, I think, to be honest, I think a lot of those villains weren't. I mean, Magneto, right? Magneto didn't have his backstory for the first, I don't know,
a long time.
For a long time, right?
Yeah.
So like, he wasn't really built with that into it. Someone put that into that story.
When did they do that backstory? That may have been. He may have been around for 20 years before they did the whole
So it's like
Holocaust survivor thing.
But I don't know if all those characters, like, I don't think you can do that with everyone. I don't know. Like, right? Like, can the Vulture really hold like a whole, like, sympathetic backstory to it, right? Like, do you see?
They've already done that.
I know, right? But yeah. But like, when you do it with all of them, it's like, is there anyone who's just a crook?
Right? Then anybody's just a bad dude. Like, there are
the comic that they did, the Rhino story that was like Flowers for Rhino. What was that called?
Flowers for Rhino Jane? No, I don't know.
There was a really good Spider-Man story about Rhino, and it made Rhino this like really sympathetic character.
The Gauntlet thing, where they did that.
I don't remember
part of it, but part of it too is that we've probably read too much.
Yeah,
we've seen all of them, right?
Probably. That's probably the case.
It's like, oh great, now they're making this guy have like a sob story.
Well, I mean that was the Lex Luthor was always he was a bad guy because he was a bad guy. It's
lost its hair. The Superboy. Mm-hmm. It's up the lab.
But then they made Lex Luthor more interesting because you
can see his point of view at some, in some ways.
Tom explained this to me at one point. It was like, no, Lex Luthor's motivation is that he is trying to save us all from Superman.
Right.
And that made him a much more interesting and complicated character rather than just being crazy scientist guy.
Well, he's a white supremacist, kind of. I mean, he's a anti immigrant.
Yes,
there you go.
Kind of.
Well, and then
how did he ever become president?
It's crazy. A megalomaniac billionaire who uses fear mongering. I don't know.
Yeah, who's bald?
Yeah.
Only in comics.
Only.
Yeah. Thank God. Thank God. It's only fiction.
Well, I have some Superman stuff to talk about. Are we gonna? Tom, do you need to check on your family situation?
I'm good for about another 10 minutes.
Okay, let's just go 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Superman family is back, man. It's
back, baby.
It is back. Tom, have you had a chance to read Superman pal Jimmy Olsen? No, I have not.
I have not.
DC relaunched two old titles. Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen have their own books again.
Thanks to Bendis.
Is Matt Fraction doing Jimmy Olsen?
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes. And it is when I was reading it, I'm just like, Tom is going to love this because it's crazy, wacky Jimmy Olsen.
That's the best Jimmy Olsen.
It is.
That's the only Jimmy Olsen. That's the only Jimmy Olsen there should be. Well, he's a fucking goofy ass character. He should exist in a crazy fucking universe where he's Superman's best friend. So
I knew I was going to like it because the cover that I bought, it was they had 8 different variants or whatever, is Jimmy Olsen talking on his phone but running from a dinosaur. And I'm like, yes, okay, this is the Jimmy Olsen that I've been looking for.
That's the true Jimmy Olsen.
There's a scene here, Tom, where he's in space on a space plane, and he jumps out of the plane
a near orbit.
And halfway down, turns into a giant turtle creature.
Yep. Yeah, this is all good. I like it.
And what Tom can probably explain to people is that this is not a new convention for this character.
He's been a turtle before, yeah. He's been everything before.
I think my favorite part of that story was the
so you read it, Seth?
Yeah, I did. The sweating Metamorpho. Who's just like there's a part where Metamorpho's like, oh fuck, he's just like, oh god, Jimmy Olsen's gonna get me in a lot of trouble here. He's just like profusely sweating.
Yeah, that's how Jimmy Olsen should be.
Yeah, Metamorpho.
Jimmy Olsen should be jumping out of space planes.
This is Tom's book to read, so it's hopefully you pick it up. But yeah, it's Matt Fraction, and I love being able to read a book where Fraction is allowed to be crazy, because I think sometimes he got a little roped in on stuff. Because I look back at like Five Fists of Science and some of the early stuff that he was writing that we used to talk about, and just the big idea and goofy craziness that he could bring into stories. So I think that Jimmy Olsen's a really good book for him to be writing. So
not only crazy, but just fun too. This is more fun, crazy stuff, not like. Because I think you're right. Like, he got wrapped up into he was going to be the next big thing at Marvel, and all of a sudden,
you got to write an event.
Yeah, you got to have these gigantic events, and I just don't know that that's necessarily, not that he didn't do decent events or anything like that, but Yeah, I think like this is a super fun, wonky, kind of crazy kind of thing.
Really are we building towards a DC Jimmy Olsen based event?
Maybe
crisis.
I would
Crisis on Earth, Jimmy.
Well, he does get fired from the Daily Planet like right away.
I bet he gets hired again.
He might.
He does.
They couldn't fire him because he's their biggest revenue stream.
Their only.
Jimmy Olsen is the reason that the Daily Planet still exists because he is their only advertising revenue stream
on Instagram. He gets lots of.
But he's also their biggest insurance risk. Yeah. So they're like, you're going to work for us, just not in Metropolis. So.
Oh my God. I got to go get this. This is all the sweet spots.
It's really good. It's really
if you're going to have Jimmy Olsen, right? If he's going to exist in your universe, this is how you should eat. This sounds like what you should do with Jimmy Olsen.
Oh, and it's Steve Lieber art, and Lieber's perfect for this. Because he captures the kind of boyish charm of Olsen really well. Lieber does expressions great, and this is definitely a moment and expression driven scenes. So yeah, Lieber's perfect for it.
Jimmy, Instagram star. Of course, he'd be a huge Instagram star.
Oh yeah.
Of course. He's just like fucking running from dinosaurs and shit.
Then the other book is Lois Lane, and that's
that's your book.
That is my book. As much as
is it like a spy book?
Dude, it's written by Greg Rucka with Mike Perkins art.
All right,
yeah. So it is
a female lead.
Yeah,
I'll back up and
strong female lead. It's the hard-nosed journalist, and he is pulling no punches because this is basically Greg Rucka's big giant finger fuck you to the Trump administration.
Oh, I haven't read Lois Lane yet. It's good. I have not gotten to it yet, but
it is not the fun little thrill ride that Jimmy Olsen is. I mean, it's
not describe it as a romp.
It is not a romp. It's Greg Rucka in the DC universe. So of course, the Question shows up. It's the Renee Montoya Question, and Lois is a hard hitting journalist researching horrible stories about horrible people, and it was and Mike Perkins art. So,
I feel left out. You guys each got a book from the new Bendis DC era, and I don't have a Bendis DC book.
But what would?
Too bad for you, man.
Yeah.
What do you want? What do you say? Speak it into existence.
Speak it. I don't know.
What would be your book?
I'm not sure. Like.
Well, if we're sticking to the Superman world, maybe it's Steve Lombard, sports reporter.
Steve Lombard. I could go with that. I could. Yeah. Who's gonna write Steve Lombard, sports reporter?
I think that's his. I gotta Google this to make sure I got that name right.
Steve Lombard and Cat Grant.
Lombard and Cat. Who would write that? Who? I want Jock on art. No. It's got to be like a 90. It's got to be like the 2000 era Marvel. It's got to be somebody from that era. So because it's like Bendis, Matt Fraction, Rucka, Warren Ellis.
Warren Ellis, Steve Lombard. But
do it.
I'm not sure even I would buy that.
You heard it, DC. You heard this, Steve. Warner Brothers.
Get on it.
Get all back. Get on it. The Steve Lombard IP is just going to waste, guys.
I could see like a Mike Allred Bizarro book.
Ooh. Well, Mike Allred's coming back with Ecstatic.
Oh, Ecstatic. Did you read it?
I did, yeah.
It was great.
Yeah,
I love the book. You want to talk about a book of an era?
Well, but it's even more like relevant today.
That book was fucking prophetic.
For sure. I'm looking forward to more of it for sure. Yeah, that would. I'm trying. Who else was like who? So who would have been? We have Bendis, Rucka, Fraction. Mm-hmm. Who else was in that clique at that time in Marvel? Who else?
Brubaker.
Oh, there we go. I got to get Brubaker on a book. Steve Lombard, Brubaker. Yeah. We need Brubaker with what's his name from? They do all the criminal stuff together.
Oh, Phillips.
Yeah, Brubaker and Phillips. That's what I want.
Sports
crimes.
Yeah,
Steve Lombard. Sports crime.
Yeah, well, their criminal stuff right now is great. I think we talked about that. I talked about that last time, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, they should stop.
Bad weekend.
They should stop what they're doing and get cracking on the Steve Lombard book.
Is there anybody else in the Superman family that I could maybe get other than Steve Lombard?
Okay.
Is he the only
Ace. Oh wait, no. Crypto.
Is Crypto dead? I don't.
Beppo, Super Monkey. Perry White.
Ooh, what's how about young Perry White? Huh?
Young Perry White.
Yeah. Young Perry White.
It's spelled like a rapper, like Y-U-N-G. Young Perry White.
What is Cat?
There's another.
Cat Grant. She does all like the celebrity gossip stuff, right? Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's your.
I don't know.
On the farm, you could just go back to Smallville.
Just small. Pete Ross.
Mom and Pa Kent.
Pete Ross. Yeah, there you go. Now we got it.
Little Pete Ross action.
Fucking Pete Ross.
Oh well, I guess I'm gonna have to stick with something.
Yeah. It's either Steve Lombard or Pete Ross.
I think I'm taking Steve
Brubaker
Lombard.
Gets to decide. Brubaker. Those are the two you get.
I think Lombard gets more tails, so I'm more interested in.
Yeah.
Stay classy in San Diego.
Sorry, guys. We already Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane got picked already, so you got Steve Lombard or Pete Ross.
How do you sell that to Brubaker? Listen, Ed, we got an idea for you. We got a book.
Completely blank slate. Go in any direction you want.
You can do whatever you want with Pete Ross. Who?
Who? Wait, I'm not familiar with that character.
Pete Ross was Superboy's childhood friend. Oh, okay. Yes. Okay, I get it. Yes. Pete Ross.
What could we do? Let's actually brainstorm. What could you realistically do with Steve Lombard? Like, he's a sports. Is there any way that you could actually make an interesting Steve Lombard book?
Steve Lombard. So there's a alien race that the only way that they can mediate things is through sporting contests. And they kidnap Steve Lombard to be their chronicler of all their sporting contests.
Lombard of Metropolis, we've heard your great telecasts across the cosmos. That's what it's
called, Lombard of Metropolis.
Yes, Lombard of Metropolis. And they just got all the broadcasts from the 1970s. When he was a mustached, guy in a leisure suit. Yeah.
And so the book is really him chronicling these massive space battles.
But at some point he realizes that the space battles are preparation for invasion. And so he has to sleep his way through a cadre of alien women.
Yeah. Steve Lombard only knows. Yeah. This is all good.
There's only one solution to every problem for Steve Lombard.
So bad.
Steve Lombard of Metropolis.
Somebody get Brubaker on the phone. We got to hit.
Email this to him directly.
I think I still got his phone number somewhere.
Are you familiar with the character Steve Lombard? No?
We have a pitch for you.
What if we find out Brubaker's a huge Steve Lombard fan? I grew a mustache in '84 just for Steve Lombard.
There is a huge Steve Lombard fan out there.
For sure.
The
end of the story will be the end of the Great Darkness saga, where Darkseid carves his face into a planet. It'll be Steve Lombard's face with this giant mustache. Just
There's just like some small alien race that worships Steve Lombard as a god.
Yeah.
Lombard of Metropolis.
Lombard of Metropolis.
All right, let's let Thomas go be with
Lombard. They refer to it. They say it like it's a Legion of Superhero character. Lombard.
Lombard. Lom of Bard. House Bard. He's Lom of House Bard.
Lom-Bard. It's
the bards of Krypton were
Lombard.
Were known for their extraordinary mustaches.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Sorry.
It's a good one. Okay, guys. Look for Lombard. Metropolis at your local comic book shop.
Lombard of Metropolis. Okay, are we done?
Yeah, I got nothing more after that.
I think we played that joke for all it's worth.
There you go. Yeah. I was going to ask you guys. Do we want to start asking people to send in emails or anything?
We can ask.
Do we have an email address?
Yeah, info@aroundcomics.com. I think
Steve Lombard at Around Comics.
Send us your Steve Lombard pitches.
Oh God, I will send.
We will definitely
read stuff. Steve. Yeah, those will make it for sure. I will send you something.
Elevator pitch.
If you
or any other questions that you have, elevator pitches for Steve Lombard of Metropolis, and any other questions or comments that you have. So I forgot we hadn't reached out to listeners. I got a really nice text from Gordo the other day. He said he's really enjoying listening to us again. So
nice.
He wanted me to say hi to you guys.
I think most people don't realize, like most of the people that used to listen to us still don't realize that we're doing it again. Because every once in a while I get somebody on Twitter or something like, "Oh, you guys are doing the show again," and then they're really excited about it. But I don't think I don't know how to
and
like.
Then they listen.
Yeah, and then they hear this shit. Yeah. Oh well, they didn't really evolve much in the last 7-8 years.
Exact same stuff that they're talking about. They talked about Steve Lombard for like half an hour.
It's gold, Jerry.
That's it. That's it.
Lom of Bard.
So there you go. All right. Well, we'll be back again in the next month or so to talk about comics and everything in and around the world of comics. So I totally fumbled that one.
You just stepped all over that.
We'll be back in the next month to talk about everything in
and around comics.
Right.
You still fucked it up though.
Jesus.
You didn't in between time.
Fix it.
In the meantime, Jesus, we've only been doing this for a decade.
It's because I'm sober.
Oh, this is true.
Yeah.
Steve Lombard wouldn't be sober at a time like this.
Definitely not.
I need a script.
The world needs a hero. A hero with a mustache. A man not afraid to sleep his way out of problems. A man not afraid of sticky situations. And
Steve Lombard.
Steve Lombard.
All right, guys.
All right. I think that's enough.
Yeah. Have fun in Minnesota. Tom, have fun doing whatever you're doing.
It's going to Cincinnati. Have fun in Cincinnati. WKRP.
They call Cincinnati the Queen City.
That's what I've heard.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and the Queen is
Freddie Mercury loved Cincinnati.
They named it after Freddie Mercury. Oh.
Freddie Mercury, yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
It's crazy. Yeah,
he was huge in Cincinnati.
That is a lie. There's nothing.
It was in Bohemian Rhapsody.
I believe it 100%. Tom said it.
There's nothing about that is true.
Yeah. All right,
fine. You want to besmirch Freddie Mercury's good name and death like that? I don't know why. It's kind of rude.
All right, please.
Did you guys hear before we go, one last, did you hear they're naming a street in New York after Stan?
Oh, are they? They should.
I think in New York, or maybe it's, I don't remember where exactly. I think it's New York, not New Jersey. I think it's New York, somewhere in New York. I just happen to read that. So, no Kirby Lane. No Kirby.
No,
just Stan.
Just Stan.
Just Stan.
Yeah, it's good for Stan.
Good for Stan.
Yeah. He's dead now. We can let it all go, right?
Yeah, I don't care.
They're all dead.
Yeah.
They pretty much are.
I don't know why we're maintaining this. Yeah, everyone's dead.
All right, guys.
All right.
Be good.
Good night.
Talk soon.
Comics.